Days passed quietly after the council officer left the academy. Students whispered less, but fear still rested like a heavy cloud in the halls. Lyra continued to practice every morning. She stood in the large training room, eyes closed, breathing slowly. A blue glow formed around her hands. She opened her palms, shaping the energy into a soft ball of light. It floated like a tiny star. Her teacher, Master Rovan, nodded with approval. "Good control," he said. His voice was gentle and his smile was calm. "Remember, power follows the heart. When you are calm, your light will be calm." Lyra repeated the words softly. Power follows the heart. After training, she walked to the dining hall. Students formed lines to collect food. When Lyra entered, some heads turned. A few students stepped to the side, allowing space between them and her. She tried her best to ignore it and collected her food quietly. A girl with golden skin and short hair waved to her. "Lyra, sit here," she called. Her name was Zira. She was kind and curious. Lyra smiled and sat beside her. Zira spoke happily about her own ability to control wind. Lyra listened, feeling a small warmth of friendship. Suddenly, loud footsteps approached. A tall boy named Derek appeared with two friends beside him. His voice was sharp. "Careful, Zira. You sit too close and something might explode." Zira frowned. "Stop saying that. Lyra has control," Derek shrugged. "Maybe now. But tomorrow? Who knows?" Lyra lowered her gaze. She breathed slowly, remembering Orion's lessons. When the boys walked away, Zira whispered, "Ignore them. They are afraid because they do not understand." Lyra nodded quietly. Still, her heart felt heavy. Later that afternoon, the academy's gardens bloomed brightly under artificial sunlight. Lyra enjoyed sitting near the flowers. Their scent calmed her. As she sat there, Orion joined her. "You handled that well," he said, sitting beside her. "You heard them?" Lyra asked softly. "I hear more than students think," he replied with a small smile. "Fear is loud. But courage is louder," Lyra sighed. "Why did they judge me before knowing me?" Orion gently picked a small flower, then pressed it between his fingers. "The galaxy has seen great destruction. When something new appears, they think it may cause more pain. But sometimes the greatest help comes from what people fear most." Lyra listened carefully. She felt better. That evening, a training test was held in the main hall. Each student would show their control and perform tasks with their power. Teachers and supervisors watched closely. Lyra waited nervously. Zira performed first, creating small wind spirals that lifted feathers gently into baskets. Students clapped. When Lyra's turn came, whispers filled the room. She stepped forward and breathed slowly. Her palms glowed. She shaped a shield of energy around a fragile glass orb. Slowly, she guided it across the room without cracking it. The orb landed safely. Silence filled the hall. Then applause broke out. For a moment, Lyra felt accepted, but the peace shattered when an alarm blared through the academy. "Power surge detected," shouted a robotic voice. Students panicked. Lights flickered. A loud crack echoed as a machine exploded in the corner. Smoke rose into the air. Darek pointed immediately. "It's her." "She lost control!" Lyra shook her head quickly. "No, it wasn't me." But fear spread fast. Some students ran away. Teachers hurried to control the damage. Orion rushed in. He checked Lyra's hands. They were calm, glowing softly but not wildly. He looked at the broken machine. "This was not caused by her," he said firmly. Master Rovan nodded. The device had old wiring. "We have seen warning signs before." Derek stepped backward, embarrassed. But he said nothing. Lyra breathed shakily. She sat on a bench outside while engineers repaired the machine. Orion sat next to her. "You handled fear again," he said softly. "That is strength," Lyra whispered. "I do not want to be blamed for everything." "And you will not be," Orion answered. "Truth will always show itself." The next day, Lyra walked to class carefully. She expected more whispers. But something surprising happened. A boy from another class stopped her. "Lyra, thank you," he said. "Yesterday you helped calm the energy so the machine did not spread its damage." She blinked. "How do you know?" "I saw your light moving carefully," he pointed. "You controlled the explosion. You protected us." Lyra felt her chest warm. Slowly, respect began to grow around her. Weeks passed. More students approached her with questions about energy control. Lyra helped them fix broken suits and charge training devices. Her confidence grew. One night, however, a distant boom echoed from the academy's power core. The lights dimmed. A soft voice came from the speakers. "Power loss in main sector." All students remain in quarters, but Lyra stood up quickly. She sensed something strange. The air around her felt heavy, like energy was being pulled away. She ran to the hall. Orion stood there, already prepared in his uniform. "You feel it too?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "Something is draining energy. It is not normal." Together they moved toward the power core. The halls were dark, lit only by emergency lights. When they reached the center, they saw technicians trying to fix cables. But the lights continued to flicker. Suddenly, an alarm robot rolled forward. "Unknown force detected," it buzzed. "Energy being absorbed." Lyra closed her eyes. She reached out with her senses. She felt a dark pull coming from underground, deep below the academy. "There is something below us," she whispered. "It is waking up." Before Orion could answer, a deep rumble shook the floor. Cracks formed on the walls. Students screamed somewhere behind them. Orion looked at her seriously. "Lyra, we need to go deeper. Only you can sense this." She nodded, even though fear rose in her chest. They climbed down metal stairs into the lower chambers. The walls were coated with frost from sudden energy loss. In the final chamber, they saw a strange pod, black and shaped like an egg. It pulsed softly, stealing power from the academy like a hungry mouth. Lyra shivered. "That thing, it lives on energy," Orion nodded. "Maybe it activated after sensing your training. It could be reacting to your power." Lyra breathed shakily. "If it wakes up fully, it may drain entire planets." Orion spoke calmly. "Then we stop it. But carefully." Lyra reached out her hand. Her energy formed a bright shield around the pod. It shuddered, resisting. The lights flickered harder. Her shield trembled. Orion stepped behind her, placing a supportive hand on her shoulder. "Focus on peace. Power follows the heart." Lyra remembered her breathing lessons. Slowly, her heart calmed. Her light steadied. She guided her energy inside the pod carefully, like closing the lid of a box. Finally, the pod dimmed. The academy lights returned. The power core hummed normally. The danger passed. Lyra collapsed to her knees, exhausted. Orion gently helped her stand. "You saved us," he said gently. "Again," Lyra whispered. "They will still fear me." "Some will," Orion admitted. "But many more will respect you." The next morning, teachers explained to the students what happened. They shared how Lyra carefully contained the energy threat. Many students applauded her. Even Darek nodded awkwardly, avoiding direct eye contact. The council inspector returned days later, this time with careful eyes. He studied the recovered power logs, watched recordings of Lyra's control, and spoke with teachers. In the final meeting, he stood before the academy. "Lyra has shown responsibility, emotional control, and bravery," he announced. "Without her, this academy would have suffered great damage." Students clapped loudly. Lyra felt her face warm with pride. The inspector turned to Orion. "Her progress is impressive. We will not remove her from this academy." Lyra breathed deeply. Relief washed over her like gentle rain. Later, as she walked alone in the garden, she looked up at the stars once more. "Maybe," she whispered, "the galaxy can learn." But deep in her heart, she felt something else waking. Not fear and a quiet strength. A voice reminding her that she was more than whispers and rumors. She was growing into her power. And the galaxy, little by little, was changing its view of her. She closed her eyes and her light glowed softly in the darkness. The galaxy was huge, filled with thousands of bright stars and many strange planets. Ships moved through space like shining arrows, carrying travelers from one world to another. Peace ruled most of the time, and many different alien races lived together under the Galactic Council. People traded, learned, and explored every corner of the universe. But peace had a shadow. Whispers traveled through marketplaces, halls, and ship stations. They spoke of a young alien girl named Lyra, born with strange energy powers. Some said she could melt walls with a single thought. Others claimed she could explode an entire ship. Many stories were exaggerated, but fear grew anyway. The galaxy feared what it did not understand. Lyra lived alone on a small space station near the edge of the galaxy. It was once a science research center, but after she was born there, most people left. Only a small group of scientists remained, trying to study her power. They were careful and gentle, but even they were afraid sometimes. Lyra saw their worried eyes, their quiet whispers, and their nervous movements. She noticed how they kept their distance, leaving food outside her room instead of joining her to eat. Lyra looked around the empty station halls and felt lonely. Her violet skin glowed slightly, giving off a soft light. Her eyes were bright blue, with energy dancing behind them like tiny stars. When she was sad, the lights around her flickered. When she was scared, the energy burst from her fingers in small sparks. She tried to control it, but she was just a girl, barely old enough to understand her feelings fully. One day, two scientists hurried into a meeting room. Their voices were quiet, but Lyra could hear them clearly with her sharp alien ears. "The council cannot keep her here forever," one scientist said. "They are sending a human officer," another whispered. "A captain named Orion Hayes. He is supposed to take her away." Lyra's heart sank. She had no idea where the council wanted to send her. Maybe somewhere cold and lonely. Maybe far from any sunlight. She sat on her bed, hugging her knees tightly. The lights flickered again, casting strange shadows on the walls. A loud alarm sounded through the station. The door to her room opened with a gentle hiss. A tall human man stepped inside. He wore a dark blue uniform with silver stripes on the shoulders. His short hair was neat and his brown eyes were calm. He did not look afraid. That confused Lyra. She stood quietly, trying to make herself smaller. Her fingers glowed faintly. "It's okay," the man said gently. "My name is Captain Orion Hayes. I'm here to help you." Lyra looked up slowly. "Help me," she repeated. "Everyone says I am dangerous," Orion shook his head. "Danger is not always in power. Sometimes danger is in fear." Those words surprised her. No one had ever said something like that to her before. People always warned her to stay calm, stay quiet, stay hidden. This human talked to her like she was a person, not a threat. He stepped closer, but slowly, giving her time. "I am here to take you somewhere safe. A place where you can learn to control your power." Lyra's eyes widened. "You are not going to lock me away?" Orion smiled softly. "Only someone who understands their power can truly be free. I want you to be free." For the first time in many months, Lyra felt a small spark of hope that did not come from her fingers. The scientist collected her few belongings. A small bracelet, a notebook filled with drawings, and a glowing crystal she liked to hold at night. They handed everything to Orion. Later, Lyra walked beside him through the station. The halls felt long and empty. Her soft footsteps echoed. When she finally saw the ship, she stopped and stared. It was not big, but it looked strong. Blue lights ran along its edges, and the engines hummed quietly. On the side of the ship, the name Starlight Voyager was printed. "That is your ship?" Lyra asked. Orion nodded proudly. "A good ship. Fast, safe, and well protected." Lyra followed him inside. The interior was warm, filled with comfortable seats and small glowing panels. She had never seen a ship so clean. Orion guided her to a seat and gently strapped her in. During takeoff, the ship shook a little. Lyra held her crystal tightly, but Orion spoke calmly. "Just the engines warming up," he explained. "Nothing to worry about." As they left the station, Lyra looked through the window. She saw the stars stretch into long white lines. Space became a blur of lights. It was her first time leaving home. After a while, Orion brought her a warm drink. It smelled sweet. Lyra sniffed it carefully, then took a sip. It made her chest feel warm and relaxed. She smiled weakly. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To the Luna Academy," Orion replied. "It's on a small moon. They teach young people how to control special abilities." Lyra blinked. "There are others like me." "Different gifts," Orion said. "Not exactly like you. But everyone there struggles with control. They will understand you better than anyone." That idea felt comforting. As the ship traveled through space, Lyra tried to sleep. But nightmares came. She dreamed of bright explosions, people screaming, lights flickering. She dreamed of her power bursting out of control. When she woke up, her hands were glowing brightly. The ship's lights flickered. Orion rushed to her side. "Lyra, breathe with me," he said calmly. He took slow breaths, and she followed. Slowly, her power faded, and the lights returned to normal. Orion did not look angry. There was no fear in his eyes, only concern. "You're not a monster," he said quietly. "You are a child learning to use something powerful. That is all." His words eased her shaking hands. Hours later, the ship reached the moon. Its surface was gray, with domes of glass covering bright cities. The academy was a long building with tall windows and wide gardens. Students walked around wearing simple uniforms. When Lyra stepped out, many heads turned. Some students whispered. Her glowing skin drew attention. Her unusual eyes sparkled in the sunlight. She felt nervous, but Orion walked beside her, his step steady. The head teacher, a tall alien woman with soft green skin, greeted them. "Welcome, Lyra," she said warmly. "We have prepared a room for you." Lyra nodded shyly. Inside, her room was clean and quiet. A window showed the stars outside. A small desk held learning tablets. It felt peaceful. Over the next few days, Lyra learned basic control exercises. She practiced shaping energy into small glowing balls. She learned how to stay calm when frightened. Some students avoided her, stepping away quickly when she entered the training hall. Others simply watched her from far away. She tried not to feel hurt. One afternoon, while practicing alone, Lyra heard laughter nearby. A group of students stood together watching her. They whispered loudly enough for her to hear. She could break this whole place if she loses control. She is dangerous. Lyra's fingers trembled. Sparks danced at her fingertips. She turned away and closed her eyes tightly. She tried to breathe slowly, but the fear made her chest tight. Suddenly, Orion appeared. "What is happening here?" he asked calmly. The students lowered their voices and walked away quietly. Orion knelt beside Lyra. "You did well," he said. "You did not let fear control you." Her eyes filled with tears. "I do not want to hurt anyone," she whispered. "And you will not." "Because you are learning," he answered gently. "And you are not alone." Those words became her strength. Days turned into weeks. Lyra improved. She learned to form shields of energy, like transparent walls. She learned to channel power into machines to charge them. She helped teachers fix broken training tools. Slowly, some students began to trust her. They asked questions. They smiled back when she walked past. But everything changed when a message arrived from the council. Orion received it in the communication room. His face became serious. He returned to Lyra with heavy steps. "The council wants to inspect your progress," he said. "They think you might still be too dangerous." Lyra's heart beat faster. "What will happen if they are not happy?" Orion's jaw tightened. "They may decide to take you somewhere far away. Somewhere isolated." Lyra swallowed hard. She did not want to be alone again. Orion placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Do not lose hope. Show them who you really are." The day of the inspection came. A tall council officer arrived with guards. He watched Lyra train. He frowned often. He asked many cold questions. He wrote notes on a tablet. When the training ended, he made his decision. "She must be removed," he declared. "She is still a threat," students gasped. Teachers protested. Lyra felt her knees weaken. But before the guards could step forward, Orion moved in front of her. "No," he said firmly. "She stays." The room fell silent. "You do not decide that," the officer said sharply. Orion stared back calmly. "I am her assigned guardian. As long as she is learning and improving, she deserves safety." For a moment, no one moved. The officer studied Orion's eyes, then slowly stepped back. "We will reconsider," he said quietly. When he left, Lyra looked at Orion with wide eyes. "You protected me." Orion smiled softly. "I stood by the truth." That night, Lyra sat near her window and looked at the stars. For the first time in her life, she felt something bright inside her heart. Trust. She whispered to the stars, "Maybe this galaxy will not fear me forever." And somewhere deep inside, her power glowed warmly, calm and gentle like a small sun. Weeks passed and the academy slowly returned to normal. The halls no longer echoed with whispers of fear. Many students now greeted Lyra with smiles. She helped teachers repair damaged devices, and she shared small energy tips with younger students. Her quiet nature brought peace instead of trouble. But peace is sometimes only the surface. Deep below the moon, hidden in the shadows of forgotten tunnels, an old darkness slowly woke. One night, as the academy slept, the lights flickered once more. The air became heavy. Machines hummed louder than usual. A faint, low sound vibrated through the walls. Lyra woke instantly. She sat up holding her glowing crystal. Her heart beat fast. She felt energy being pulled away again. It felt stronger this time, like a mouth opening wider. She stepped barefoot onto the cold floor. Outside her door, students ran in panic. A teacher shouted, "Everyone return to your rooms." But fear spread too quickly. The lights died completely. The moon's artificial sky turned black. Lyra stepped into the hall, her hands glowing. "What is happening?" she asked a shaking student. "The energy is fading again," he cried. "The generators cannot hold." Lyra felt her senses stretch deep below the academy. Something ancient moved. It was not a machine this time. It felt alive, hungry. At the same moment, Captain Orion Hayes burst from his room, uniform half-zipped and hair messy. "Lyra," he called. "With me?" She nodded, following close behind. The two moved through dark corridors lit only by Lyra's gentle blue light. "I felt a pull," Lyra said quietly. "It is stronger now," Orion nodded. "The Council warned us about strange beings in older tunnels. Something built long ago, forgotten by history." They turned a corner and met Master Rovin, who looked tired and worried. "We must protect the students," he said. "We do not know how long the power will last." "Where is it coming from?" Orion asked. Master Rovin pointed downward. "The lower chambers again. But the readings are different this time. Whatever was sleeping is now awake." Lyra swallowed hard. The pull grew stronger with every step. It felt like a voice whispering inside her ear, calling her toward darkness. Orion noticed the worry in her eyes. "You are not alone," he reminded gently. They reached the same stairway where they found the dark pod weeks earlier. But now the stairs were cracked. Goosebumps covered Lyra's arms. A cold wind blew upward, though there should not be any wind underground. As they descended, strange lights pulsed on the walls, like veins glowing beneath the stone. They reached the bottom and froze. The pod was gone. Broken metal covered the floor, twisted and melted. The walls were cracked as if something huge had crawled out. Dark slime dripped from the ceiling. The ground shook quietly like distant footsteps. Master Rovin whispered, "It escaped its chamber." Lyra trembled. "It feeds on power. Now it is free." Suddenly a loud alarm echoed through the academy above. Students screamed. A robotic voice shouted, "Unknown creature detected near the main hall." Orion turned instantly. "Go," he commanded. They raced back up the stairs. As they reached the main hall, they saw students pushed against walls by a powerful wind. Lights above flickered wildly. At the center of the hall stood a creature made of shadow, taller than any person. Its body looked like smoke shaped into a beast. Its eyes were bright white, hungry for energy. "The Void Hunter," Master Rovin breathed, "a creature from ancient stories. It eats light, energy, and fear." The creature opened its mouth silently. Lights popped like dying stars. Students fainted from exhaustion. Teachers struggled to stand. Lyra felt its hunger like a hand around her throat. She stepped forward. Orion grabbed her arm. "Wait!" "If I do nothing," she said, "everyone will fall." Orion looked into her eyes. He saw no fear, only courage. Slowly, he released her arm. Lyra walked toward the creature, palms raised. "Stop," she said softly. It turned its glowing eyes toward her. The hall became ice cold. The creature roared silently, shaking the walls. It lunged toward Lyra, reaching with its claws. Orion jumped between them, blasting a beam of light from his wrist device. It pushed the shadow back slightly, but not enough. "Do not touch her," Orion shouted. Lyra stared at the monster. She saw not anger, but hunger. It was not evil, only starving. It needed power. She closed her eyes and remembered Master Rovin's words. Power follows the heart. She focused on calm. Her hands glowed brighter than ever. A beam of warm energy formed like sunlight in darkness, but the creature absorbed it easily. The lights dimmed further. Students panicked again. Lyra gasped. "If I attack, I feed it more." Master Rovin nodded. "It grows stronger from fear and loose power," Lyra thought deeply. She let her energy reshape. Instead of sending power, she began to absorb it, pulling some of the free energy back into herself. Her body glowed brighter, steady like the moon. The creature roared louder. It lost strength as Lyra retrieved what it consumed. For the first time, it stepped back. Orion saw a chance. "Lyra, I will distract it." "You shape your power into a trap." Lyra hesitated. "But you could get hurt." He shook his head. "I trust you." Then he ran toward the creature, rolling behind broken columns, firing controlled flashes of light. The monster chased him, pulling away from the students. Lyra gathered energy into her palms, shaping them into glowing rings on the ground. The rings formed a trap, slowly closing in like a cage. "Orion, lead it here," she shouted. Orion sprinted, sliding across the floor. The creature followed, roaring. As soon as its foot touched the glowing ring, Lyra snapped her hands shut. A bright cage of energy burst upward, trapping the beast. It roared silently, thrashing like smoke against glass, but its power was declining. The trap held firm. Students watched in awe. Teachers stared in disbelief. Master Roven whispered. I have never seen such control. Lyra's eyes glowed like twin stars. Sweat rolled down her forehead. She held the trap steady, every muscle shaking. Orion ran to her side. You can do it, he said softly. His presence steadied her heartbeat. Slowly, the creature's shadow body shrank. Its white eyes dimmed. Without energy to feed on, it faded like smoke into the air. With one final flicker, it disappeared completely. Silence filled the hall. Light slowly brightened. Students exhaled. Some fell to their knees, exhausted but safe. Lyra collapsed too, but Orion caught her before she hit the floor. Her breathing was quick, but she smiled weakly. You did it, Orion whispered. We did it, she replied. Teachers rushed forward. Master Roven placed a gentle hand on his heart. The galaxy will hear of this courage. Later, Lyra rested in the medical wing. Healing machines hummed softly. Orion sat beside her bed, arms folded, keeping watch. You saved hundreds of lives, he said. Lyra looked away. But the galaxy will still fear me. Orion shook his head. Fear comes from stories. We will change those stories. Hours passed. Students lined up outside the medical wing, waiting to thank her. Some brought flowers. Others brought drawings of her bright light defeating the shadow. Their smiles warmed her heart. Even Darek came forward. He cleared his throat awkwardly. I was wrong. You saved us. Thank you. Lyra nodded gently. Fear makes mistakes. Learning fixes them. The next day, the council inspector returned again. But this time, he did not look suspicious. He looked amazed. You stopped a creature that our council once failed to destroy, he announced. Your control is remarkable. He turned to Orion. You were right about her potential. For once, Lyra did not feel small. She felt strong. That night, she stood outside in the academy gardens. The moon sky sparkled with artificial stars. Orion joined her quietly. You changed more hearts today, he said. Lyra smiled softly. I only did what was right. You did what was brave, he corrected. The wind blew gently. Flowers swayed. A soft blue glow surrounded Lyra's hands, not from fear but from peace. Far away, across the galaxy, news began to spread. People whispered again, but this time their voices carried hope, not fear. The girl with light saved an academy. The human captain stood by her. A new legend begins. Lyra looked up at the stars and whispered, Maybe the galaxy will not fear me forever. And this time she believed it. The galaxy had begun to change its whispers. Stories about Lyra no longer carried fear. Instead, they spoke of courage, of light that could protect instead of destroy. But the young alien girl knew her journey had only just begun. She still had much to learn about her powers, about herself, and about the universe beyond the academy. Lyra walked through the gardens of the Luna Academy, sunlight reflecting on her violet skin. She moved carefully among the flowers, her soft glow blending with the petals' colors. Students smiled at her as she passed. Some even asked questions about energy control, eager to learn from her experiences. Zira, her closest friend, ran to her. Lyra, have you heard? The council wants to honor you. They are planning a ceremony. Lyra stopped and blinked. She had never imagined this. For so long she had been feared and isolated. Recognition felt strange, almost unreal. Orion appeared behind her, his expression thoughtful. Be careful, he said gently. Some may still watch you with doubt. Recognition comes with responsibility. Lyra nodded, feeling the weight of his words. I understand, but I want to do something good, not just be celebrated. Orion smiled, proud of her wisdom. That is exactly why you are special. The ceremony was held in the central hall of the academy. Students, teachers, and representatives from nearby colonies gathered to witness it. Lyra stood on the stage, her hands glowing softly as she breathed deeply. Orion stood beside her, silent and steady, a calming presence amid the bright lights. The council inspector spoke first, his voice echoing through the hall. Lyra has shown bravery beyond her years. She faced a creature that threatened the lives of hundreds, controlling her power with unmatched precision. The galaxy once feared her. Now we honor her courage. Applause filled the hall. Lyra's heart swelled. She glanced at Orion, who gave her a small, encouraging nod. When the ceremony ended, students crowded around to talk to her. Some shared stories of fear they had felt before knowing her. Others thanked her for saving lives. Lyra listened patiently, offering gentle smiles. She realized that trust once earned could erase even the deepest fears. After the ceremony, Lyra and Orion walked through the quiet gardens. The soft moonlight reflected off the water in small fountains. Lyra's thoughts were heavy but hopeful. "Orion," she said softly, "I want to do more than just defend this academy. I want to help the galaxy, to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Orion nodded. "Then you will. But remember, strength is not just about power. It is about knowing when to act and when to wait. Judgment, patience, and courage. These are your greatest weapons." Lyra listened carefully, letting the words sink into her mind. She felt a spark of determination. She would not hide. She would not let fear guide her. She would be a light in the darkness. The next weeks were busy. Lyra trained harder than ever. She learned to form energy shields capable of protecting entire rooms, to repair broken machines with precise bursts of energy, and to calm her powers when emotions ran high. Orion continued to guide her, helping her understand that control was more than a physical skill. It was a mental and emotional one. One morning, news arrived of a distant colony under threat. A massive storm had knocked out their energy fields and wild creatures had entered the area. The council wanted to send Lyra, but she hesitated. "I have never left the academy for a mission like this," she admitted to Orion. He looked at her calmly. "You are ready. But more importantly, you are not alone. You have me and others will help. Courage is not just facing danger. It is choosing to step forward when it is needed." Lyra felt a shiver of excitement and fear. She realized that true bravery meant action, not just hope. The Starlight Voyager prepared for departure. Lyra stepped onto the deck, feeling the ship vibrate under her feet. She looked back at the academy, remembering all the lessons she had learned there: the patience, the control, the trust, and the courage. Orion stood beside her. "Remember," he said, "no matter what happens, trust your heart. Power follows it." Lyra nodded. "I will." The ship launched into the vast galaxy, stars streaking past the windows. The journey was long, but Lyra spent her time preparing, practicing, and observing the sensors. She learned to read energy signals, to detect disturbances, and to anticipate problems before they occurred. When they finally reached the colony, the scene was chaotic. Buildings were damaged, energy shields flickered weakly, and frightened creatures roamed freely. Citizens were hiding in safe areas, too afraid to move. Lyra stepped forward. She took a deep breath and let her energy flow outward. Blue light spread across the ground, forming protective barriers around civilians. The wild creatures froze, sensing the strong energy. With careful guidance, Lyra led the creatures back into the forest beyond the colony. Citizens watched in awe. Some whispered prayers. Some wept in relief. One small child ran to her, holding a broken toy. Lyra knelt down, using a gentle burst of energy to repair it. The child's eyes widened in amazement, and the crowd applauded. Orion stepped forward, smiling. "See, bravery inspires others. You do not just protect, you give hope." Lyra felt warmth in her chest. She realized that the galaxy did not only need her strength. It needed her heart, her wisdom, and her courage. Over the next weeks, Lyra and Orion traveled from world to world. They repaired damaged cities, calmed dangerous energy storms, and helped colonies struggling with unknown problems. Everywhere they went, stories of the girl with light spread. People whispered her name with awe and respect. They no longer feared her. They trusted her. Despite the recognition, Lyra remained humble. She never sought praise or reward. Her joy came from helping others, from seeing the hope in their eyes, and from knowing that her powers could bring peace instead of fear. One evening, after returning to the academy, Lyra stood on a balcony overlooking the gardens. Orion joined her quietly. "The galaxy is changing its view of you," he said softly. Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. "But there is still so much to learn, so many people to help, so many dangers we cannot yet see." Orion placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we continue together. We face whatever comes as friends and allies." Lyra smiled. "Not just allies," she said. "We are partners, and together, we can make the galaxy a better place." From that night onward, Lyra and Orion traveled to worlds far and wide. The galaxy watched in awe as a young girl, once feared by everyone, became a symbol of hope and courage. Her power, once thought dangerous, now brought safety. Her heart, once lonely, now inspired thousands. People told stories of Lyra and Orion. They spoke of bravery in the face of fear, of friendship that crossed worlds, and of a girl whose light could shine in the darkest night. Even years later, students at the Luna Academy would speak of her name with admiration. The girl who tamed her power, they said. The girl who saved hundreds. The girl the galaxy once feared but now respects. And Lyra, standing beside Orion, always remembered the first days at the academy. The fear, the loneliness, and the lessons she had learned. She realized that fear could teach, but courage could change everything. Together they had rewritten a legend, not with destruction, not with fear, but with heart, trust, and light. Lyra gazed at the stars, violet skin glowing softly in the moonlight. She whispered, "The galaxy can be a better place, and I will help it become one." Orion smiled beside her. "And I will stand by your side always." The stars twinkled above, and somewhere far away a new story began. A story of courage, of hope, and of a girl who turned fear into light. The galaxy had feared her once. Now it celebrated her, and Lyra was ready for whatever came next.